All right, we're back. Adversity Podcast, real stories with real people. I feel like we haven't been here for a while.
It seems like it's been quite a while.
Yeah,
actually.
You lost weight, I gained weight. That's how long it's been.
I'm just leaner. Okay?
Yeah, man, you look good, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
See,
you look
now I
good.
feel better about myself. There for a minute, I was developing some insecurities, Mambo.
No. One day, I'll get the same compliment from you when I lose weight.
You look great.
Yeah, man. But another dope guest today, and one thing I like about this podcast is I think every guest, I've never met them. This is the first time I meet them, so it's very genuine.
Very cool.
The questions I ask. Regan Hill is here with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.
So let's get going. Tell us about yourself. What do you do? Where were you born, raised, all that stuff?
Yeah, well, I'm an actress. I moved here in October from Iowa. I grew up in Iowa. It was a great place to grow up, but I was like, oh, I want a little bit more. And so I moved to LA in the fall to pursue acting. I studied acting in school, communications and art as well.
And this was all in Iowa?
This was all in Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to University of Iowa. So I graduated in the spring and now I'm here. So
That's cool.
So
yeah.
what sparked that thing in your brain to say I want to move to LA?
I think I always knew. I grew up with theater. I always loved movies. I loved storytelling and just everything creative. And I was like, it was either LA or New York. So
Right.
I was like, California, the weather's better. And it's more spread out. And yeah, I just always knew I was gonna move to LA. I hadn't even been here yet, and I was like, yep, I'm gonna move to LA. When I grew up, I told my parents at like 12. I was like, yeah, I'm moving to LA. So
This story sounds very familiar.
I know it.
yeah, exactly. It's like pretty much the dream story, you know.
Yeah.
Small town raised and then big city living. So
Were your expectations of LA what you expected?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I had visited a couple times, so I knew what I was getting myself into. But I mean, it's definitely like, you know, you romanticize the dream life, and then you get here and you're like, oh yeah, this is like reality. Like I'm not just living in La La Land. So yeah, but I think it's been pretty great. So.
And what's been the biggest struggle since you got to LA?
Money. Like just like paying for life. Yeah, probably that. And then also it's just like starting over, you know,
Right.
like coming here not knowing many people. I knew a couple people going into it, but I really had to start my whole life over, meet new friends, get a job, you know, like all of that stuff. It was like this is pretty much starting from square one. So I think that was probably the biggest thing to overcome, I guess.
I think back when I started going to LA a lot. I mean, we're like a 45-minute drive,
40-50 minutes, something like that.
So going back then and talking to people who were acting, a lot of them were waiters or waitresses.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it seems like there's a little more options with like Uber, if you have a car.
Yes,
Uber, DoorDash, and a lot of those things. Is that something that you got into?
Yeah, well, so I'm a nanny. I have 2 like part-time nannying jobs, and I love kids, so that was part of the reason I was like, oh, well, nannying would be a good side hustle while I'm auditioning and doing all that stuff. But yeah, I lived in Chicago for a summer just to kind of like test the city waters, and I was a waitress then. So yeah, all those like part-time jobs are really good to just, you know, continue making money and have that hustle as you're trying to do what you want to do as a full-time job. So
yeah, that's I remember talking to you outside and just kind of hearing your story about coming from small town Iowa and then getting into, you know, acting, and it amazes me like how many people don't realize how many people come out here with college educations.
Yeah.
So you went from, how big was your high school in Iowa?
We had a graduating class of like 300, so it wasn't super, super small, but
it wasn't super.
wasn't,
See, I had 800
exactly.
kids in my graduating
Yeah.
class,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And so how many kids were at University of Iowa, though? 20,000?
Probably,
25,000?
probably about that.
So what's neat is a lot of people don't realize when a lot of these small town kids that go to these big universities, the reason they can adapt to LA so well is because you've already gone through that culture shock of holy whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
I just left a small school. Now I'm going to school that's the size of my town.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it helps you kind of like navigate through that. So kind of
Yes.
talk about some of that, going from that small school and transitioning into the big university world, and how you kind of feel like that's probably prepared you for this. Because a lot of people don't realize how expensive it is out here, right? A lot of people, when they come out here, they're not prepared. Like you said, you were kind of like they come out with the dreams and the fancy fairy tales, and then they get out here, and as soon as that we've
Reality
talked about
hits.
this, as soon as that reality or that first adversity hits, it's kind of like the negativity starts hitting, the depression starts sinking in, all of a sudden the drive to pursue your
Homesick,
goals,
all that.
and within a year you're back home.
Yeah.
So kind of talk about that, how that helped prepare you for this huge, because this is a huge transition.
It is a huge transition. And I think like the biggest thing I learned just throughout like college and just throughout my life was how important community is. So right when I moved, I was like, I got to get myself into an acting class. I got to reach out to those people who I had messaged through Facebook about living together, and then timed in, or Carly being one of them. And so it was like I knew I had to meet those people and build my community right away so that I didn't feel so alone in this huge environment. And I learned that through school, and then just through various little like things along the way where I was like just getting myself into those community building. And I just realized how important that was to surround yourself with like-minded people. So then going into moving to LA, I just knew that's what I had to do. So
Isn't it amazing how many people we have on here that community is like the common, it's the common thread.
Yeah.
And it's the success stories that we have really center around, even Brandon, when he was talking about the struggles that he went through, he found community. Right. He found people that were like-minded by him and gave him the strength to go ask for help and do all the things he needed to do. So this is obviously the adversity podcast, and there's a lot of things we want to unpack about, you know, what you're doing now and projects you're doing now. But what are some of those adversities that you hit, you know, that kind of got you into a place where you were like stronger, right? Like, let's talk about some of that.
Yeah. I mean, just with my story of how I went back into acting, because when I started college, like throughout my whole life I was doing theater. I wanted to be an actor. I was like so young telling my parents I want to be an actor, and then I think college hit and I was like, oh, I have to have a real job. I have to be like an adult now, you know. So I let go a lot of those creative endeavors of mine, and oh my God, I was so depressed. You know, I was like, I had no creative fulfillment. And then around sophomore year, junior year, my dad kind of told me to get back into acting class. Like, you have to do this. And then around that time, COVID, and then I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. So it was my whole life was like boom, boom, boom. Like everything was just happening. But what really got me through that was acting class. And I was like utilizing this emotion that I felt within another person's life and just being able to empathize with these characters while also struggling in my own life was just so huge for me. So, that was like a big step in my life to realizing that I can overcome so much and do what I want to do and continue pursuing that.
Right.
So
you got diagnosed with Lyme disease.
Yeah, that happened around junior year. Actually, my little sister, my mom, also were diagnosed with Lyme disease. Yeah, because we grew up in Iowa, we were like playing in the woods, you know, growing up, and it just takes a tick bite, and then It's like, so we're really lucky that we found it so early on.
Yeah.
At that point, it had probably been about 5 years that I had it. And it was my freshman year of college where it really, really impacted my life, and we didn't really know what was going on. We thought maybe it was just the change of, life, and because it was like affecting a lot of my neurological, like I was having anxiety, like panic attacks like I never had before. I was like not motivated like I used to be. And then I was just getting sick all the time. It was like strep, then mono, then all of these things because my immune system was just so shot. Yeah. And so then, beginning of junior year, my sister had been diagnosed first. And my mom was like, some of these symptoms are similar.
Right.
So she had me test. And I remember like completely being like, there's no way. And I was like fighting the test. I was like, no, like I don't have Lyme disease. Like there's just no way. And maybe something deep down in my gut just didn't want that like reality hit. But I remember I was in my COVID quarantine, and I get the call from my mom, and she was like, yes, so it was positive. I was like, my life is over. Like, this is the worst thing ever. But no, it ended up being a huge lesson for me along the way. Just because I think, like, obviously throughout my life, I had other struggles here and there, but it was more like high school drama, like, things like that. And then this was like kind of the first time in my life where something was like really
eye-opening
happening. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was such a crazy time in my life, but.
So I'm not familiar enough with Lyme disease to
Yeah.
really even have an intelligent conversation. So what are some of the effects that Lyme disease causes?
This is the thing about it, is it affects everyone in such different ways.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's one of those things that they don't have much research on, right? I mean, they're researching more now, but it's taken like the health community a while to like figure this out. But yeah, it affects people in such different ways. I know a lot of people who get like joint pain and just various like with me, it was kind of just my immune system and I was just getting sick all the time.
Probably a lot of fatigue.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
I read a little bit about it maybe a couple months ago.
Really?
And someone that I know went through it, and they would forget everything. It's like they knew what they were doing, and
No way, really?
Brain fog.
Yeah,
That's like
brain fog, yeah.
That's a huge one
I have
too.
brain farts. I don't know if those are the same.
Yes, yeah, that's a huge one too. My little sister was getting that a lot too, because she was in middle school, like going into high school at the time, and her personality had just completely shifted.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy to watch, but
How did that impact you? Because you got that before COVID.
yes.
So how was that going through COVID, knowing that your immune system was already?
Oh, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Did you even get COVID? Did you ever get COVID?
I did get COVID. Yeah, because I was in my quarantine with COVID while I got the call about having Lyme disease.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
It was so crazy.
Were you scared at any point going through that?
I wasn't like scared, like because COVID just affected me like with exhaustion and like a minor like cough, and it felt more like the flu, I guess.
Right.
And I had been sick so many times before. I wasn't like fearful of my life or anything. But it definitely did make me think about like just getting sick in a whole new way, because you never know.
So you're kind of this bubbly, fun, energetic person, right? Like I can't even imagine you like just being, wow, So
I know.
Were you always like this, or was it like super noticeable when all of a sudden you were just like
It was
zero energy, zero desire to do it? So
it was.
It really-
It was huge. Yeah, and I remember like having conversations with my parents, because I didn't really notice it. I'm just like growing up. I'm just going through life. I'm like, well, this is me now. So like I remember having a conversation, because all of this stuff has been pretty much figured out now. I'm still going to have it. I'm still always going to have it, but I'm at a way better place now with it because we did catch it so early. But I had this conversation with my parents where when all of this stuff, when my personality was coming back, and like my dad was like, this is so great. Like I have my Regan back, you know?
That's cool.
Yeah. And I was like, I didn't see it, you know, but I do remember freshman year just experiencing like depression in like just a way that I never experienced. And I think that played a huge part of me too, where I was like, I have to be an adult. Like I can't do creative things. That's like a silly childhood thing. So like on top of not having these creative endeavors, I was like extremely unmotivated. So it was like, it was rough. But yeah.
So now that you're in LA, because I always find it interesting in, like you were talking about, living situations, you know, like the actors and actresses that have to come out here and get roommates.
Right.
Yes.
You know,
that you never met,
never
don't
met
know.
them.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So kind of talk about how you were able to find, because you said you had some pretty solid roomies, which is, I was telling her, I said, you know, when I was in college, I roomed with some of my best friends, right, that I knew.
Right.
And 6 weeks into this thing, I was like, man, we were really good as friends, but we are not good roommates.
That is how it goes. That's how it goes.
I like you, but not that much.
Yes, yeah.
You have your room, I got mine. How about we just keep it that way?
Exactly.
So kind of talk about like how you were able to find, and with coming from that kind of background, did it make you more skeptical, or did it make you more open to other people? Like how did that impact you with going through everything you went through, the small town, big school, COVID, Lyme disease, going from not acting back to acting? I mean, it's just, you had a lot going on.
I had a lot
and
going
then
on.
we're all coming to LA.
Exactly. I know. Well, thank God for Facebook, because it was like a Facebook group, like young female LA roommate search or whatever. And so I was just, people will post, I'm looking for so-and-so. And so then you just reach out to them and see if you click. And then we like would FaceTime and stuff like that. And you get an understanding of it, whether or not you're gonna like work with, you know, these people as roommates. But I got really lucky finding 2 amazing roommates. I don't know how I got so lucky with that, but they're both great. And we all just met through that Facebook and then FaceTimed, and it was just like, all right. And everything happened pretty fast because, I mean, LA, the housing is like boom, boom, boom. So we were like, all right, we're signing this place. We're living together. This is it. And then we all moved in and we were like, okay, this is going to work. Like, this is pretty great. So,
And they're all working on the same mission as you?
So one of them is a singer. She's awesome. She's got that like creative, you know, thing going on too. The other one has like a corporate job. So we're like really a good mix.
Right.
I think we have like that, we're not all working on the same thing, but we're all like, you know, we work together really well.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's been great. And they've become some of my closest friends. So yeah, it's been
Who
really
cooks?
Great.
There's always one that cooks.
The restaurant down the street.
Yeah, literally. Actually, I would say probably, see, I feel like we all are kind of even with it, but probably the singer cooks the most with her own recipes.
Yeah.
The corporate girl, she'll, you know what, like HelloFresh is? She'll do like stuff like that, where she gets those recipes, the arranged recipes, and then she makes it with that. So she'll cook, and then I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm like the least. I'm like, I'll make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and I'm out the door. So, but I try.
That could be a TV show.
Right?
Yeah.
Corporate girl, the singer, and the actress.
Yeah,
all roommates.
For real. We were talking about that. We were like, I feel like we're all the main character. Like, this is just like a great, great mix. So, yeah.
It's pretty fun.
So when, you have your plan A right now.
Yes.
Do you have a plan B?
I've heard don't have a plan B because then you won't do plan A. So I'm not going to have a plan B until I need to have a plan B. But
and you know that the reason I ask is that I was the same way. Like I never had a
Yeah.
plan B because I have to make this work.
Yes, exactly. And I think I have that mentality too, where I'm like, well, what would I do if I didn't do this? This is all I want to do. I'm like giving everything to this right now. I'm not going to even think about if I have to do something else. So.
And you said you got here in the fall?
Yeah, in the fall.
And what's been the biggest struggle, I mean, with finding acting work?
I mean, I think it's just always been like the rejection, like the amount of work you put into it and then the very limited reward you get, you know? You just have to believe in the work so much to be able to do audition after audition and then get a no and a no and a no until finally there's a yes. And I think like the right roles come into my life at the right time. Cause I mean, it's also another thing too, is it's like, I want this role so bad. And I audition for it and I don't get it. And then the project comes out and you're like, oh yeah, that person was way better for it anyway. Like they did a way better job than I could have done. So it's like, I just trusting that the right roles will come into my life.
Right.
And there's a perfect example of that is the role that I'm currently working on. It's filming in July, but the girl in it just got a heart transplant and Lyme affected my heart.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I was like, this is like incredibly healing, you know,
Right.
like, and I think that's part of the reason I got the role too. Cause I remember like discussing that in the audition where I was like, yeah, this is what I went through and why I feel so empathetic towards this character. Yeah. So I think the right roles come into my life at the right time.
And are you doing acting classes still like at night with that community of people that you came in with?
Yeah, so I'm not doing acting classes right at this moment. I think just a bunch of work like shot into my life and I was like, well, I'd rather be working than class. But I was doing classes for, I want to say like 4 months at the
And how
beginning.
many nights a week were you doing that?
That was about like 2 nights a week.
And then you were doing auditions on top of that.
Yeah, on top of that.
So that's a lot.
Yeah, and nannying on top of that.
And then,
Yeah.
so how many hours do you think you were putting into all of it every week?
Oh, I'm so bad at like numbers.
80, 90?
Yeah, a lot.
I mean, 40 hours is a regular work week. Right?
Yeah.
Think
Work.
about like 40 hours of that you're not getting, maybe more, you're not even getting
Exactly.
paid for.
Exactly.
Because if you do all the work, like Carly was telling us, you do the videos and stuff where
Oh,
you
yeah,
video each
self-tapes.
other and kind of get everything down
Yeah.
and then, you know, you do all
Yeah.
that. It's
And
just,
that's a lot too. It's like you're preparing an entire character just for an audition that may or may not happen.
right.
You know? Which that's a whole nother crazy thing about just acting. But
How hard was that first no?
you know, I was really young. I remember because this was like a theater audition and it was for White Christmas and it was a little girl in it. I think I had to have been like 8 or 9. And I went in with all the other little girls and we're like doing our little, like our circle of singing. We would each go one by one. And I did it. I got my audition out there. And then I remember like we found out that week and I was refreshing, just like waiting for my name to be on this cast list. And my name was not on the cast list. And I was so disappointed. I was like, what? Like I tried so hard. Like I'm supposed to be doing this. So, it was really hard, especially for like an 8-year-old, you know, you're like,
Do you
don't
feel that
understand.
situation prepped you for future no's?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just throughout my whole entire life, I was preparing without even realizing it that, to understand what no means and, to understand that doesn't mean you won't ever get a part. 'Cause you never know. You never know. I think that's what separates the people who continue trying and the people who stop. Yeah.
Yeah, I look at moments where, you know, I didn't get things the way I wanted.
Yes.
And then now I look at them from my age now and I was like, that's why it didn't happen back then. Because I
Exactly.
would have messed it up back then.
Yeah. No, I feel the exact same way. Yeah. I think that it also is a huge lesson
Mhm.
that I just didn't know I had to learn at the time. Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
what would you say would be your dream role?
Oh,
Ooh,
that's
that's
such
a
a
good
good
question.
question. Oh,
He's
because
got good questions.
Yes, I have like a whole list of things I would love to do. Um, I'd love to do like some type of like Victorian era thing. I also like I have this like struggle of am I a comedic actress or am I a dramatic actress? Like I think I'd love to just like marry the two and do some kind of dark comedy.
Right.
There's so many roles though that I'd love to play because I'd love to do like a real person as well, like play a real person. I think that'd be really interesting to do all the research for. Yeah, there's so many.
So you're going, you did drama, theater,
Yes.
right? And now we're doing screen,
Yeah,
which we've talked about before, two different things.
way different.
Do you think, because I feel like right now you're just focusing on screen, right?
Yeah.
Out here in LA. Do you
Yeah.
think at any point you may start merging kind of back into the theater thing?
Yeah. I love theater. I think there's something about theater where you're in front of a live audience and that energy is like palpable. Like you can just feel everyone's energy. And it's like, there's something so special about that, especially too in moments of like I remember some high school production that I did and there was like this big reveal. Like the whole time you think my character is like the bad one. And then there's like a big reveal where it's like the opposite. And I remember that gasp in the audience. And like, I was like, oh, that was like one of the first times I felt that too, you know, where I was like, wow, like what I'm doing is powerful. So like, that was like so cool. And I mean, theater was my first love. That's where I fell in love with stories. So I definitely would love to do theater again.
Yeah.
I think there's something, I mean, just with like acting style too, there's something so different with theater and screen. And right now I'm focusing on screen because I do feel that there's something special with that too. There's more of a like intimate moment that can happen with screen acting because you're almost like the only two there. Of course, there's like cameras and crew and everyone around you, but it becomes so immersive that you feel like this is a real moment. And you can speak as if, like if you have to whisper, you can whisper because the mic is right there on you. Where in theater, you can't do that so much because you have to project to the last person in the back row of the audience. So yeah, I love both of them for different reasons. But I definitely would love to work in movies. So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So if when you're not focused on the acting stuff, what do you like to do on your free time?
Yeah, well, I write a lot because it makes me feel like I'm working when I'm not actually working. And creating characters and developing that. And I also, because of my art like studies and everything like that, I have such admiration for the actual like cinematic process, you know? So right now I'm actually producing a short film. Someone said the best way, like the most universal advice I got about breaking into the industry was make your own stuff. Because if you're not just going to be given all these characters that you want to play, like create one for yourself, you know? So that's what I did. So in the fall, we're filming that back in Iowa.
Really?
So, yeah.
The movie you produced, you wrote it and are going to produce it?
Yeah, it's a short film.
That's cool. How long do you think that'll take you to shoot?
About 5 days. So it'll be about like a 20, 30 minute movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have 5 days set out. This has also been a crazy journey too, just like learning how to produce something from scratch, you know? And I've found amazing people. I have some great friends who were like, I'm on board, like sign me up.
Cool.
And we just have such a good team of people who are working so hard for something that I wrote, which is really cool. Like I didn't know that, I didn't know what that feeling would feel like. Yeah, we're like auditioning right now, which is really crazy. Like I'm like, wow, like to be on the back end of it is really exciting.
That's cool.
So Yeah.
So what's the name of the film that's coming out that you're in this fall?
This fall, it's called Nesting Doll. It's basically about, so the girl who just got her heart transplant is meeting with the parents of the daughter whose heart she has now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's intense.
That's pretty powerful.
It's really powerful. It's based on a short story that the author is actually putting out an anthology series, I think 2024 maybe, so next year, about motherhood. It's just all these short stories, fiction stories about motherhood. And the short film is one of those stories that will be in the book. Yeah, so it's really exciting. Yeah, I'm really excited for that.
So what other stuff do you have working as well right now?
That's a good question. I'm like, there's so much, because a lot of it too is just like writing. I have like 40 projects going on at once all the time, just with like things in the back of my mind that I'm like, okay, in the future, I'd love to film this thing that I'm writing. But just going back, whenever I have like an idea for a particular story, I'll just write it down. And then if I have a lot of ideas, I'll start to write something, or I'll just jot down a quick note or whatever. But yeah, I think I'm just always like thinking about the future and what's next, what project can I do next. So I think that's how I got into kind of writing my own work, because I was like, oh, I'd love to play a character like this. Like, where is that? How do I make that happen? Mm-hmm. Write it, So, yeah.
So after when you said you have a lot of projects that you're always thinking of, sometimes up to 40.
Yeah.
How do your notes look?
Oh, crazy. Like, my notes app on my iPhone is so disorganized. I need to like carry around a little notepad or something so that I can actually like physically write these things down, because I'm like, oh, what was that idea that I had? And then I have to go like search it in my notes app to like, I'm like, what did I even title it? Like, a lot of times I'll just write movie idea and then like write the idea, and so then I can just look up movie idea. Then I scroll through all of the movie ideas that
there's categories inside of categories.
Yeah, exactly. It's chaos. I need like a better organization.
Sounds like my iRecorder app.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's
I just
chaos.
organized my notes, I think like 2 weeks ago. It took me like a whole Saturday, because I wasn't putting titles, and then, there was a bunch of stuff in there, and the reason I asked was because I'm the same way. When an idea pops up, I need to write it down.
Exactly.
And then when I have free time, for some reason I go back to work too. Yeah. And I look at my notes, and then, start another project.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. And I think that's like, well, because obviously some ideas will stick and some ideas will be thrown out maybe for later, or I don't know. But it's the just continuing that like practice of always thinking about things, and I don't know, what's the next project that I can work on. I feel like I have like my life planned out like years in advance. I'm like, okay, like in 2 years time, I'll be working on this movie. So I'm like, which is probably not how it's gonna happen, but I don't know.
But you're planting those seeds at least.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or it
exactly.
Might. Yeah. It might.
It might. Yeah.
I mean, you work hard enough. That's one thing that I've learned over the course of my life, is that hard work always wins.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hard work always wins. And if you put in the work, you're not, if you put in the work not expecting necessarily to be the best, but you put in work to live your best life.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
Then what happens is you end up doing that.
Yeah.
Right? You do end up living a really good, amazing life filled with great opportunities, great accomplishments, great family, great friends. And you look back when you get older and you look at the fabric of your life that you've laid out for the past years or decades, and you go, man, that's awesome. But it's all going to be founded through hard work, you know? So I think that's a key element that I love hearing in your story, is like, you've got all these great ideas, and instead of kind of just letting them go, you're putting the work in, and you're doing it, and you're putting it together.
There's a lot of talented people that don't put in work, and they
just goes away,
regret it down the road.
Exactly.
I mean, even this podcast, for example, I mean, if you got 4 people now involved in this thing, right? And we all have to come together and work hard at it. And he's got a million things going. I'm partially retired and kind of dealing with a lot of other stuff. Yeah. And then Tyler's super busy and Carly's super busy. But you know, when you find something that you're passionate about with a group of people, it really starts to catch fire. That's what's neat. So I'm looking forward. I think this short film for you is a really neat experience because you created an idea.
Yeah.
Your friends are coming together to help you put the content and the vision together. And then so everyone's going to be able to reap the benefit of your vision because of the work that's being put into it. And you'll see it won't even be just your work, right? It's going to be everybody else's work going into it. Yeah. I'm really excited to see this project.
I'm so excited too.
You'll have to, once it's all done, send it to us so we can like link it and put a link and promote it and do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited about that. I think that's what's so cool about this industry too, is just it's such a team effort. It's such a collaborative field. And like everyone is so smart and creative, and it's so cool to work on something with like-minded people. So yeah, it's really, really special.
And you know what? I think it's so dope too that you're you know, I'm pretty sure you could put the stamp on this too. Like we grew up when there was no internet. Phones. If we wanted to call somebody, we had to pull over and get some change. But you're really taking advantage of all these tools that are out there.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Not just for one thing, but the 40 projects that you have going on.
That's incredible.
No, exactly.
That's really impressive, Regan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, because actually a couple of the people working on this project, they are in Chicago. They're based in Chicago. We do Zoom meetings.
Really?
Zoom is like Zoom changed.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Thank you, COVID.
Yes, I know, like the one benefit. But yeah.
Whoever created Zoom is now living in Malibu, right next to Jay-Z and Beyonce.
For real. I know. Why didn't I think of that? How did I not think of that? You know, it's kind of unfortunate. Like Skype could have done that.
Yeah, it was just bad
Skype.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Bad brand management.
Well, you think of all the social media apps out there. MySpace could have been owning this.
I know.
There's tons of companies out there. That it's amazing how I mean, even like with just different things like Google, right? There's other search engines. How did Google become
Yahoo.
Google? You know, just marketing, branding, the whole thing.
Totally.
So it's pretty cool. I'm excited for you.
Oh,
all right, man.
You.
Well, be on the lookout for this name, Regan Hill.
What's your show us your Instagram handles.
Oh yeah, so my Instagram is @ReganHilly with an IE. And then if you want to follow the project coming up, it's @The Grief Project Film. That's the one that I wrote.
The Grief
Project.
The Grief Project Film.
Yeah, on Instagram. Both of those are Instagram. So.
Okay.
All right, looking forward to those projects. Anything else we want to put out there?
It's good vibes and lots of love.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today, and thank you, Regan, for sharing your story with us. You're gonna take some time off, correct?
Yeah, I'll be gone for a little bit, but when I get back, we'll have some fun stories to go over of some neat experiences that are going on.
Yeah, I think when you get back, it should just be me and you, because I think you're gonna have a lot to talk about on the next one.
Yeah, we could probably do that.
Yeah, that'll be a good one right there. Regan, thank you so much for taking the time, and make sure you guys check out all the episodes on the Apple podcast app, also on Spotify, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.